Attention, lovers of the bizarre. Paranormal M is here to satisfy your appetite for the unknown. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell to join our community of enthusiasts as we delve into the most intriguing, real supernatural stories. Story number 1. Unknown Cloaked Being. So it happened last night around 1 a.m., or at least I think it was around that time. I have a habit of keeping my dog in my room while I sleep, but sometimes during the late hours, she insists on going outside. This time was no different. I distinctly remember opening the door to my bedroom, ready to let her out, when something strange caught my attention. For some inexplicable reason, my gaze shifted toward the right, and what I saw sent chills down my spine. There, reaching up to the ceiling, stood a towering figure. It was unlike anything I'd ever encountered before. Its body was covered in a thin layer of long black hair, and its face, it resembled that of a doll. But there was something eerie about it, something that defied explanation. The texture seemed to be a bizarre combination of skin and porcelain. What added to the enigma was the figure's attire. It donned a flowing black robe that extended all the way to the ground, complete with a hood that concealed everything except its haunting face and a few strands of hair. The moment my eyes met its gaze, panic surged through me. Instinctively, I blurted out, "Hell no," and hastily shut the door, making sure my dog stayed inside the room with me. After a while, I mustered up the courage to lay down and attempt to sleep. However, an indescribable feeling of being watched washed over me, causing unease to settle deep within my bones. The logical part of my mind wanted to discuss it as mere hallucinations. I had been awake late into the night and the previous day, after all. But this encounter was so unsettling, so vividly real, that I knew deep down it couldn't be explained away so easily. Story number 2. Girl in My School. When I reminisce about my childhood, one particular memory always stands out, etched deeply into my mind like an indelible mark. It was a time when I was around 10 years old, attending a school that had been built in the early 1940s, exuding an air of antiquity and mystery. Little did I know that this seemingly ordinary educational institution held secrets that would challenge my skepticism and ignite a curiosity I could never have anticipated. It all began with my music teacher, a charismatic and slightly eccentric individual who possessed an uncanny ability to captivate his young audience. He would regale us with tales of the school's alleged resident ghost. At the tender age of 10, I regarded such stories as nothing more than a load of horse manure, dismissing them with an air of youthful naivety. However, fate had a different plan in store for me, unfolding an inexplicable encounter that would shake the very foundations of my belief system. It was a day like any other, filled with the mundane routines of academia. Nature's call beckoned, and I found myself in need of a bathroom break. Securing a hall pass, I made my way toward the facilities, completely oblivious to the extraordinary events that awaited me. As I entered the boys' bathroom, anticipation filled the air, mingled with the faint scent of disinfectant. Yet to my surprise, I discovered a figure in the corner, huddled and weeping. It was a little girl, her tears cascading down her cherubic face. Her presence was as vivid and tangible as my own, her appearance as ordinary as any other child's. Confusion and intrigue enveloped my young mind. How had she ended up in a boy's bathroom? Puzzled, I turned away momentarily to attend to my own needs, assuming her presence would be resolved upon my return. With a fleeting glance over my shoulder, I prepared to zip up my pants, only to find an empty corner where the little girl had stood moments ago. She had vanished without a trace, leaving behind an enigmatic aura that tugged at the fringes of my understanding. A sense of foreboding crept up over me as I contemplated this inexplicable occurrence. Unable to contain my bewilderment, I resolved to confide in my music teacher, the one person who had spoken openly about the enigmatic tales surrounding our school. After the final bell rang, signaling the end of the day's lessons, I approached him with trepidation, recounting the events that had transpired within the bathroom's confounding walls. To my surprise, my music teacher's eyes widened, betraying a hint of something more profound than surprise. Before I could vocalize my questions, an eerie silence enveloped the room. Out of nowhere, a radio perched precariously on a shelf sprang to life, its melodic tones reverberating through the classroom. The tune played for a mere 4 seconds before abruptly falling into a disconcerting silence. What sent shivers down my spine was the realization that the radio was not connected to any power source, rendering this inexplicable symphony all the more chilling. My music teacher, his face a mix of awe and trepidation, broke the silence with a trembling voice. He spoke of the countless accounts, hushed whispers, and unexplained phenomenon that had haunted our school for generations. Story of a ghostly presence said to wander the halls and classrooms had been woven into the very fabric of our educational institution. As he delved deeper into the lore, I found myself hanging on his every word, a cocktail of fear and fascination coursing through my veins. Evidently, my experience was not an isolated incident, but rather a piece of a much larger supernatural puzzle. From that day forward, I became consumed by a fervent desire to uncover the truth behind the school's haunting reputation. Late nights were spent poring over dusty library archives, searching for any shred of evidence that would shed light on the mysterious little girl and the countless unexplained occurrences within those hallowed halls. While my quest for answers would be fraught with dead ends and unanswered questions, it instilled in me an insatiable thirst for knowledge, an unwavering determination to unearth the hidden realm that coexists with our everyday reality. Years have passed since that fateful encounter, and I find myself reflecting on the significance it held in shaping my outlook on the world. The enigmatic encounter within the boys' bathroom not only shattered the foundations of my youthful skepticism, but also ignited a lifelong passion for the unexplained. As I gaze upon the school, now decades removed from my formative years, I can't help but wonder if the ghostly presence still lingers within those weathered walls. Perhaps the mysterious little girl still roams the corridors, searching for solace or resolution, and although time may have obscured the vivid details of that unforgettable day, the echoes of that encounter will forever reverberate within me, reminding me of the boundless mysteries that await those who dare to venture beyond the realm of the mundane. Story number 3. Then and Now, Dark Silhouette, Shadow Person. The first time I laid eyes on it, I found myself within the confines of my deceased grandparents' house, a quaint abode nestled in the small rural community surrounded by approximately 50 houses, all engulfed by the serenity of a dense forest. A mere 30 kilometers separated us from the nearest semblance of a bustling city. In that dwelling my parents and I resided, our solitude interrupted only by the whispers of nature's symphony. It was during one fateful night, as the nocturnal veil enshrouded the land and the feeble glow of an extension cable cast a dim light within my room, that I experienced an encounter that would forever etch itself into the recesses of my mind. Stirring from my slumber, I discovered a chilling sight, a darkened figure, distinctly human in form, standing ominously beside my bed, the posture of its head subtly tilted to the left, or so I inferred, indicating an intense fixation upon my person. Paralyzed by fear, my instinctual response was to cautiously draw my blanket over my quivering frame, tightly shut my eyes, and tremble in the grip of terror's embrace. With the break of dawn, I mustered the courage to confront my parents, questioning them about any nocturnal visitations they may have made into my room. Alas, they professed no such intrusion. Seeking solace in the wisdom of my mother, who once presided over an esoterica salon in years past, I divulged the details of my harrowing encounter. Although her response carried the weight of convenience, she dismissed my experience as nothing more than a mere dream. Nevertheless, she bestowed upon me a silver medallion, urging me to wear it alongside my silver chain, asserting that it would serve as a talisman of good fortune. Resolute, I vowed to never part with this, steadfastly donning it around my neck for the years that followed. A decade elapsed since that initial sighting, and the memory of the dark figure had gradually receded from the forefront of my consciousness. Fate, however, had chosen a particular night as the moment to sever the bond between myself and that protective medallion. Engaged in the daily rigors of a seafarer's life, toiling away as crew members aboarded a container ship, I found myself in the midst of routine maintenance on the ship's deck when the medallion unexpectedly broke free from its chain. Weary from my laborious endeavors, I resolved to mend it in the morrow, succumbing to the fatigue that consumed my senses. As twilight cast its gentle embrace upon the vessel, ushering the world into a realm of nocturnal tranquility, I awoke abruptly, only to find the specter of my past lurking within the confines of my cabin. The figure stood unwavering in a distant corner, its gaze fixed upon my quaking frame, head still positioned in that inexplicable tilt. Despite the passage of a decade, my resolve crumbled and I succumbed to the overwhelming terror that coursed through my veins. A grown man, now reduced to a trembling soul beneath the shelter of a meager blanket, dared not emit a sound, paralyzed by the weight of unyielding fear. The following morning arrived, heralded by the jarring blare of my alarm, signaling the resumption of my daily duties. A profound emptiness accompanied me throughout that interminable day, its presence suffocating any inclination for conversations with my fellow crewmates. It was only upon concluding my arduous work that I endeavored to repair the fractured medallion, its mended form symbolizing the culmination of my confrontation with the enigmatic specter. From that day forward, the figure's visage eluded me, vanishing into the ether of the unknown. Now, 14 years have elapsed since that initial sighting, the passage of time doing little to assuage the enigma that continues to loom in the recesses of my consciousness. The memory resurfaces sporadically, an enigmatic puzzle that eludes the grasp of rational explanation. At times, I ponder the prospect of once again beholding the figure's shadowy presence, contemplating the possibility of removing the medallion before surrendering to sleep. Yet, thus far, my nerve has faltered, and I have not dared to unravel the bond that tethered me to that otherworldly encounter. Story number 4. So won't stay in my creepy, inhabited room. We're on the verge of securing a place to live, and my significant other has resorted to sleeping in the car due to the lack of quality of sleep in our cluttered living room. As a result, I decided to take action today and clean out my own room. However, much to my surprise, my so expressed a strong reluctance to sleep there, significant other. Now, let me provide some background information. Ever since I was a child, this room has instilled a sense of fear within me. I would frequently witness shadowy black figures and apparitions within the confines of our house, with a particular concentration of these eerie encounters occurring in the back guest room. My claims, accompanied by similar experiences shared by my younger siblings, prompted my parents to seek the assistance of paranormal researchers. These experts discovered orbs, captured electronic voice phenomenon, and other evidence that validated our haunting experiences. At a later point, my aunt moved in with us, but she adamantly refused to sleep in the back guest room. She claimed that a shadowy figure had opened her dresser drawer and loomed menacingly above her bed. Once again, the paranormal researchers were summoned, but this time they brought along a few unfamiliar faces. 2 newer researchers participating in what they claimed was a blind study, unaware of our previous reports or investigations, rushed out of the guest room in a state of panic. According to them, they had witnessed a little girl emerging from the closet while they were setting up their equipment. This revelation struck a chord with me, since I too had previously seen the apparition of a little girl in that very room. Despite seeking assistance from several therapists regarding my hallucinations, they insisted that I was mentally stable and unable to offer any further help. Eventually, I moved out, only to return 8 years later as an adult. Since then, I have resided in the same room, occasionally plagued by visions of a shadowy figure looming right over my closet. However, I had convinced myself that these were merely figments of my imagination. My current significant other holds a firm disbelief in the paranormal. He rejects the notion of spirits, demons, or an afterlife. When I confided in him about the strange occurrences throughout my life, he dismissed them as products of my vivid imagination, affirming that I was not crazy. Nevertheless, today, when I'm informing him of my intention to clean and transform the room into a cozy and habitable space, he surprised me with his vehement refusal to sleep there. Naturally, I inquired about his reasons, and he confessed that the room evoked a profound sense of unease and left him feeling depressed whenever he stayed there. Even during his initial visit, he had expressed discomfort and an inexplicable feeling of something within the room, resented his presence, especially around me, an unsettling notion indeed. He described his visions of a black angel emerging from the closet, pitch black with piercing white eyes, hovering menacingly above him as he slept. Although he acknowledged the irrationality of his superstitions, I found it peculiar since this room had always been a focal point for the unexplained emotions and sightings. Nevertheless, I assured him that I didn't mind sleeping in there myself. In conclusion, the room's eerie history, coupled with my own childhood experiences and the testimonies of others, have given rise to a formidable aura of mystery and trepidation. While my significant other, who typically rejects the supernatural, succumbs to an unexplainable discomfort and vivid hallucinations within its walls, I remain resolute in my willingness to reside in that room, even amidst its inexplicable phenomena. Story number 5. Does anyone believe in signs or omens? In May of 2013, a year that feels like a lifetime ago, I found myself embarking on a fateful journey through the series of events that would forever alter the course of my life. It all began innocently enough as I walked into my garage, completely unaware of the horrors that awaited me. A putrid smell assaulted my senses, a nauseating odor that seemed to permeate every corner of the space. Determined to locate the source of this repugnant stench, I meticulously combed through the garage, my eyes scanning every nook and cranny, hoping to identify the culprit. As I delved deeper into my investigation, the pungent aroma led me to a shattered window, tucked away at the back of the garage. This window, one of 4 magnificent panes adorned with sturdy shutters, was always kept tightly closed. With a mixture of curiosity and trepidation, I cautiously swung the shutter open, revealing a ghastly sight that would forever haunt my memory. There, lying in a state of decomposition, was a grotesque sight, an enormous rotting crow. The mere thought that such a creature had found its way into my garage baffled me. I frequented this space multiple times a day, shuttling back and forth on my daily routine, and yet I had never heard any signs of an avian intruder attempting to escape its expected prison. It appeared that this unfortunate creature had been trapped for days, left to decay in solitude until my fateful discovery. Summoning all my courage, I adorned a pair of gloves and gingerly removed the foul carcass, determined to rid myself of this macabre spectacle. Carefully, I disposed of the lifeless bird, ensuring it was deposited far away from the sanctuary of my home. Little did I know that this encounter with death's repugnant visage was merely the prelude to a chain of extraordinary events that would soon unfold. Having successfully cleansed my garage from the macabre remnants, I was ready to embrace the day ahead. However, as I stepped out of my house, my gaze was greeted by a sight that sent shivers down my spine. Above me, an ominous tapestry of storm clouds dark and foreboding, loomed like an impending doom. Instinctively, I knew I had to alter my plans, for the thought of navigating treacherous roads under the deluge of rain, thunder, and possibly even tornadoes filled me with an inexplicable dread. It was a decision that would prove to be both life-saving and fateful. Within moments, as if mocking my intuition, the sky unleashed its fury upon the world below. A symphony of nature's wrath unfolded around me, as wind gusts violently toppled outdoor furniture and sent fragile plants sprawling across the ground. The weather alerts that accompanied this tempest painted a harrowing picture, a severe thunderstorm, replete with the potential for hail, and the menacing touch of tornadoes was en route. The mere thought of such forces of nature converging upon my humble abode sent tremors through my core. Seeking refuge within the safety of my home, I sat in a state of awe and trepidation as the heavens unleashed their fury. Thunder roared with an intensity I had never experienced before, reverberating through the very foundations of my house. Each thunderclap felt like a battle cry from the gods themselves, reminding me of my insignificance in the face of nature's relentless power. As the cacophony of the force of the elements reached its zenith, the lifeblood of my home, the electricity, succumbed. In the moments of resolute solitude, I found myself grasping my phone, my lifeline to the outside world, hoping for a connection that would tether me to my loved ones. In the midst of this tempestuous chaos, I dialed my husband's number, yearning for his comforting presence amidst the storm. We exchanged anxious words, clinging to each other's voices as the lifeline to our communication. And then, in a cruel twist of fate, a deafening boom resounded through the air, a chilling testament to the nearby lightning strike that had claimed victory over the fragile infrastructure of connectivity. The call was abruptly severed, leaving me stranded in a sea of disconnection, vulnerable to the capricious whims of nature. As the tempest finally relinquished its grip, its fury replaced by a deceptive calm, I ventured outside to survey the aftermath. Rain-soaked and shaken, I was met with a scene of devastation. There, a mere stone's throw away, stood our majestic oak tree, a sentinel of nature's magnificence, now severed in twain by the merciless touch of a lightning bolt. Smoke lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of the fire that could have consumed this befallen behemoth were it not for the rain's timely intervention. I stood in awe of the forces that had converged upon my existence, their wrath leaving an indelible mark on my consciousness. In the days that followed, the ebb and flow of life took an agonizing turn. A somber phone call brought the news of my grandmother's ailing health, a centenarian succumbing to the frailty of human existence. The initial assumption that it was a simple cold quickly unraveled as the gravity of the situation became apparent. My family implored me to take the arduous journey to her side, sensing the impending finality of her presence in this world. Obliging their plea, I embarked on a 40-mile pilgrimage, my heart heavy with foreboding. Upon arrival, I was greeted by a harrowing sight, a room transformed into a veritable deathbed, where my grandmother lay motionless, her eyes devoid of light, her breath shallow and measured. It was a haunting tableau, one that spoke of a soul already departed, leaving behind a mere vessel clinging to life. With a heavy heart, I bid my farewells, knowing deep within that this encounter marked the end of a chapter, the farewell to a matriarch who had shaped my existence in profound ways. And as fate would have it, destiny dealt an unforgiving blow, for within the confines of that same fateful day, news reached me of the passing of my godmother, a woman who had been like a second mother to me. The weight of grief threatened to engulf my entirety as the realization was sinking in. 2 pillars of my life had crumbled within the confines of 24 hours, their absence leaving a void that seemed insurmountable. In the wake of the devastating loss, we gathered as a fractured family to bid farewell to our departed loved ones. The funeral processions unfolded in agonizing succession, a solemn burial for my grandmother and a melancholic Wednesday, followed by the interment of my grandmother on a somber Thursday. Godmother. Thursday, tears flowed like rivers. Grief washed over us in waves as we clung to one another for solace and strength. My mother, burdened with unimaginable pain from losing her mother-in-law and dearest friend, sought solace in my embrace, her anguish searing through my own soul. Amidst the haze of sorrow, life persisted, albeit in a fractured state. Days turned into weeks, and as the wounds of bereavement gradually scabbed over, I found myself visiting my parents' house, a place that had become a sanctuary, a respite from the storm of grief. A glimmer of hope shone through the darkness as I witnessed my father, burdened with the responsibilities of caring for my grandmother, now liberated from those obligations. With newfound freedom, he and my mother could savor the joys of life, unhindered by the constant worry that had consumed them for years. Travel and cherished moments with their grandchildren beckoned, promising a respite from the unrelenting weight of sorrow. Yet, as life would have it, tragedy refused to relent. 3 weeks after bidding farewell to my beloved matriarchs, I found myself receiving a call that would forever etch itself into the depths of my being. My father's voice trembled on the other end of the line as he delivered the dreaded news. A stroke had besieged my mother, leaving her helpless and paralyzed. The world around me crumbled, the ground beneath my feet morphing into a shifting terrain of despair. With the heart consumed by fear and a heavy foot on the accelerator, I raced towards the hospital where my mother lay. 2 hours of relentless driving, feeling like an eternity. As I entered the sterile confines of the hospital's emergency room, the sight before me shattered the last remnants of hope within my heart. There, on a sterile hospital bed, lay my mother, once vibrant, independent, and filled with life, now reduced to a mere shell of her former self, her gaze fixed on a distant horizon, unresponsive around her, imprisoned by the cruel grip of a massive hemorrhagic stroke. The agony of witnessing her silent struggle, her voice silenced by the capricious nature of her affliction, threatened to consume me entirely. Days turned into weeks, and the cycle of life intertwined with the relentless march of time. We watched as my mother fought against the limitations of her body, her indomitable spirit occasionally breaking through the veil of paralysis. Laughter and shared moments of joy punctuated the somber routine of hospital visits, but the specter of her affliction loomed ever present. My brother and I took turns, never leaving her side, ensuring that she never spent a night in solitude in her hospital room, and yet, despite her unwavering devotion, fate had already determined the course of events. On a fateful night of July 22, 2013, at the stroke of 2:43 a.m., my phone pierced the silence, jolting me from a fitful sleep. With a sense of trepidation, I answered the call, the voice on the other end bearing news that would inflict the deepest wound upon my soul. My mother's fragile state had succumbed to another devastating stroke, the final blow that would claim her earthly existence. In that agonizing moment, as tears streamed down my face, I was forced to confront the profound emptiness that would forever remain in the wake of her departure. The pain of loss, the weight of grief, and the remnants of shattered dreams became the fabric of my existence. Every event from the ghastly encounter with death's emissary in my garage to the torrential storm that heralded the demise of nature's resilience wove together a tapestry of suffering and resilience. I had traversed the precipice of mortality, witnessing the fragility of life and the indiscriminate hand of destiny. And so, as I look back on those tumultuous days, forever etched in the annals of my memory, I find solace in the knowledge that my journey through darkness has forged an indomitable spirit within me. It is a spirit that embraces the fragility of existence, cherishing the moments of joy, love, and connection that flicker amidst the ever-present specter of loss. And though the pain of those experiences will forever linger, I carry them as a testament of the resilience of the human spirit, a spirit that endures, rebuilds, and finds hope, even in the face of the darkest storms. Story number 6. My kid had a premonition almost 1 year to the date before my mother died. Every year, our family embarked on a highly anticipated week-long vacation to the breathtaking beach. It was an event that brought immense joy to all of us, especially because our busy schedules and commitments often left us craving quality time together. Like clockwork, we chose to embark on this adventure during the second week of July, a detail that would become relevant in the stories unfolding here. During one of these cherished vacations, my husband and I decided to treat our children to a memorable day at the zoo. The excursion required us to embark on a roughly 1-hour drive from our cozy abode by the shoreline. Naturally, my dear mother, whom we affectionately called Wita, opted to stay behind and enjoy a day of relaxation in the familiar surroundings of our temporary home. With excitement in the air, we set off on our expedition, unaware of the extraordinary events that awaited us. As we wandered through the captivating zoo, marveling at the exotic creatures that inhabited the lush enclosures, time seemed to melt away. The hours passed in a blur of laughter, learning the awe-inspiring expressions on the faces of our 3 beloved sons. However, exhaustion eventually caught up with them, and on the journey back to the hotel, the weariness overcame their young bodies, and they succumbed to the gentle embrace of sleep. Of my 3 boys, my oldest, who was then around the tender age of 6 or 7, possessed a unique temperament. Unlike his more emotionally expressive siblings, he had always been a child who harbored his feelings deep within, rarely displaying overt signs of affection or vulnerability. Hugs and emotional displays were not his forte. Yet on this fateful drive home, his peaceful slumber was abruptly shattered as he awoke, trembling, tears streaming down his bewildered face. Overwhelmed by sobs, he managed to convey the contents of his disquieting dream, the words trembling on his quivered lips. "I had a dream that Wita died." My heart skipped a beat, a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. I exchanged a concerned glance with my husband, who was also grappled with a mixture of worry and confusion. We endeavored to soothe our distressing son, his anguish piercing our souls. Reassuringly, I mustered the strength to assure him that Wita, his beloved grandmother, was alive and well, awaiting our return at the comforting embrace of the hotel. Finally arriving at our beachside condo, our son's distress miraculously dissipated, leaving behind a semblance of normalcy. It was almost as if the episode had been more of a fleeting shadow in the tapestry of our lives. Feeling a profound sense of relief, I summoned the courage to recount the ordeal to my mother, who had patiently awaited our return. She enveloped our son in a warm embrace, her voice brimming with love and tenderness as she uttered, "Baby, I'm here, don't worry, give me a big hug." Yet to our surprise, our son stood there, his countenance stoic, unyielding to the flood of emotions coursing through the room. Time, relentless as ever, proceeded to unfurl its unstoppable march. The second year of July arrived, a year seemingly distant, yet eerily reminiscent of the events that had transpired before. Tragically, and against all odds, my mother succumbed to the devastating grip of a hemorrhagic stroke, leaving a void in our lives that could never be filled. The unimaginable pain of loss washed over us. Each family member grappled with their own unique blend of grief and disbelief. I have never been one to harbor superstitious beliefs, relying instead on the firm grasp of logic and reason. However, the peculiar circumstances surrounding my son's dream continued to reverberate in the depths of my consciousness. The timing, the uncanny connection between his nightmarish premonition and the subsequent loss we endured plagued my thoughts. It was an inexplicable event, an aberration that defied rational explanation. To be clear, I've never witnessed my son exhibit any other semblance of extrasensory perception or psychic ability. This solitary incident stood alone, an anomaly in an otherwise ordinary life. Yet the weight of that dream, the foreboding it carried within its ethereal realm, lingered in my mind, casting shadows of doubt upon the certainties I once held dear. In the grand tapestry of human existence, there are mysteries that elude comprehension, enigmatic forces that defy our attempts at logical deconstruction. The enigma of my son's dream, and its chilling resemblance to the eventual loss of my mother, serves as a poignant reminder of the vast unknown that envelops our lives. We navigate the intricate dance between the tangible and intangible, the seen and unseen, with a blend of trepidation and awe. The human mind, its vast expanses and uncharted depths, remain a realm of limitless potential and inexplicable wonders. We may never fully grasp the intricacies of dreams, the enigmatic threads that weave together the tapestry of our subconscious. And so, the story of that unforgettable vacation, imbued with the weight of my son's prophetic dream, stands as a testament to the unfathomable mysteries that lie beneath the surface of our existence, waiting to be unraveled or forever shrouded in the unyielding embrace of uncertainty. Story number 7. Do you believe in signs prior to having a loved one die? Approximately 1 week before the tragic loss of my dear mother, an unforgettable incident occurred that sent shivers down my spine, haunting my thoughts into this very day. It was a day marred by an ominous storm, one that raged with an unparalleled fury. As if the heavens themselves were unleashing their wrath upon the earth, the torrential rain fell relentlessly, drenching the world in its sorrowful tears. While gusts of wind howled throughout the night, carrying a foreboding sense of unease. As this tempest raged outside, I sought refuge within the comforting walls of my home, seeking solace from the tempestuous elements that raged beyond my windows. Little did I know that fate had a macabre surprise in store for me, lurking just behind the safety of my house. Suddenly, amidst the chaos of nature's fury, a blinding bolt of lightning tore through the sky, illuminating the darkness with an electrifying power. The luminous spear of energy struck a towering tree mere yards away from my humble dwelling, its thunderous crack resonating through the air like a battle cry. Strangely, the tree remained unscathed by the fiery touch of the lightning bolt. Instead, a peculiar phenomenon unfolded before my eyes. The rainwater cascading down the branches mingled with the electronic current, resulting in a smoldering effect that wafted through the air like an ethereal mist. The ghostly tendrils of smoke danced in the aftermath of this surreal spectacle, lingering for hours on end as if reluctant to let go of the scene that had transpired. However, this enigmatic display was not the only perplexity that occupied my mind on that fateful day. As I retreated to the shelter of my garage, seeking sanctuary from the raging elements, a foul stench assaulted my senses, stopping me dead in my tracks. Bewildered, I tried to recall whether this odorous intrusion had been present earlier in the day when I had last ventured into this domain. Alas, my memory failed me, for the putrid aroma was absent during my previous visit. Determined to unravel the mystery that pervaded the air, I enlisted the aid of 2 contractors who happened to be present, diligently working on some repair tasks within the confines of my abode. With desperation creeping into my voice, I beseeched them to lend their expertise in unearthing the sources of this noxious smell that permeated my garage. Perhaps a diseased rodent had found its final resting place within these walls, I conjectured, praying for a logical explanation to this disconcerting conundrum. Together we embarked on a mission to uncover the hidden secret that lay concealed amidst the shadows of my garage. Every nook and cranny was scrutinized, every corner meticulously examined in our quest to unveil the origin of this repugnant aroma that defiled the air. After what felt like an eternity of fruitless searching, one of the skilled workers finally stumbled upon the grotesque truth that had eluded us thus far. Nestled betwixt a window still and the shutter, securely fastened to it, an eerie discovery awaited us: a lifeless crow. Its once majestic wings, forever stilled, lay lifeless in this unconventional resting place. The shutter, designed to be opened like a door, was inexplicably closed, as were the surrounding panels. It defied all reason, for there were no conceivable ways that a creature of such size and wingspan could have squeezed through the tightly shut shutters. And yet, there it was, a lifeless sentinel of darkness, mocking our feeble attempts at understanding it. The sight of this grotesque spectacle sent shivers down my spine, and I observed the contractors' faces contort in a perplexing mixture of fear and disbelief. Whispers escaped their lips, laden with an eerie sense of superstition and trepidation. "This looks like some kind of voodoo-like curse," one of them murmured, his voice barely audible amidst the backdrop of their nervous laughter. Their uneasy demeanor only served to intensify the foreboding atmosphere that had taken hold of us, leaving an indelible mark on our memory. Little did I know that this bizarre encounter with the lifeless crow was but a harbinger of the impending tragedy that awaited me. 1 week later, my beloved mother succumbed to a devastating hemorrhagic stroke, leaving behind a void that could never be filled. The eerie events preceding her untimely demise lingered in my mind, intertwining the threads of fate and coincidence, forever etching themselves into the tapestry of my existence. Story number 8. I just woke up to a deep growl in my ear and a male hand around my neck. I've always been a person who easily gets spooked, but this time I was scared shitless. I couldn't believe what had just happened to me. It felt like a scene from a horror movie. Unsure if it was sleep paralysis or some supernatural phenomenon, I found myself wide awake after a particularly unsettling dream. As I lay there in bed, desperately attempting to calm my racing heart and fall back to sleep, I was suddenly startled by a deep guttural growl that echoed right in my ear. Simultaneously, I felt the unmistakable presence of a large masculine hand wrapping itself around my neck, its fingers extending and spreading out across my chest. It was as if an unseen force was trying to choke the very life out of me. Panic set in, and I realized with horror that I couldn't move a muscle. Summoning every ounce of strength within me, I fought against the invisible restraints, struggling to break free from the terrifying grasp that held me captive. After what seemed like an eternity, I managed to pry my eyes open. The moment my vision cleared, the eerie sensation dissipated into thin air. I was left trembling and shaken, unable to comprehend the terrifying encounter I had just endured. Still quivering with fear, I found myself sitting in my room, the only sanctuary I had at that moment. This wasn't the first time I'd experienced inexplicable phenomenon within the confines of my apartment. From the moment I moved in, I had an eerie sense that something otherworldly resided within those walls. It started innocently enough, with the door mysteriously closing on its own, sometimes even after I had firmly shut it. At first, I dismissed it as a mere coincidence, attributing it to the fluctuating air pressure, or perhaps a faulty latch. However, as time went on, these inexplicable occurrences became more frequent and unnerving. Objects would seemingly move on their own accord, shifting from one place to another while I was away. Strange noises echoed through the rooms, giving rise to an unsettling atmosphere that constantly put me on edge. It was as if the unseen spirits were playing tricks on me, toying with my sanity. Curiously, the supernatural incidents ceased when my sister and her girlfriend moved into the apartment. Their presence seemed to bring about a newfound sense of peace and tranquility within those haunted walls. Gone were the strange happenings and inexplicable phenomenon that had plagued me relentlessly. I couldn't help but wonder if their positive energy and companionship had somehow banished the malevolent force that had tormented me for so long. Yet as I sat there, trembling and reflecting on my recent encounter, a deep-seated unease settled within me. Perhaps the dormant spirits had reawakened, seizing an opportune moment to remind me of their lingering presence. The room felt heavy with an unseen presence, and the air grew thick with an unexplained dread. In that moment, I realized I couldn't continue to live in a perpetual state of fear. I needed answers, an understanding of the supernatural forces that had invaded my life. It was time to seek the help of experts in the paranormal, those who possessed the knowledge and skills to unravel the mysteries that plagued me. With renewed determination, I resolved to embark on a journey of discovery, delving deep into the realm of the occult and the unexplained. Armed with research, spiritual guides, and an unwavering belief in the existence of something beyond the natural world, I would confront the spirits that haunted my apartment and reclaim my sense of peace and security. Little did I know what lay ahead on this daunting path. The supernatural realm held countless secrets, and I was about to unlock a Pandora's box of otherworldly encounters, tests of courage, and profound revelations that would forever change my perception of reality. My journey had just begun, and the true depths of the paranormal awaited me with open arms. Story number 9. 4 months after buying vintage mirror, unexplained things continue to happen. About 4 months ago, I had an intriguing encounter at a yard sale that would soon unravel into a haunting experience. As I perused the various items on display, my eyes were immediately drawn to a truly exquisite solid wood vintage mirror. Its intricate details and timeless charm captured my imagination, compelling me to inquire about its availability. The lady overseeing the sale informed me that she didn't particularly care for the mirror, and rather surprisingly insisted that I keep it as long as I purchased another item from her sale. Eager to make this unique find my own, I agreed to her unusual offer and excitedly brought the mirror home. Upon arrival at my humble abode, I wasted no time in finding the perfect spot for my newfound treasure. The kitchen seemed like an ideal place to begin its journey in my home, so I carefully carried it there. As I proceeded to wash the mirror, a strange occurrence startled me. The lights above me flickered momentarily, casting an eerie glow over the room. Brushing it off as a mere coincidence, I continued with my task, hoping that the mirror's captivating allure would outweigh any peculiarities that it possessed. That night, despite the flickering lights during my encounter in the kitchen, everything appeared to be uneventful. My cats, usually attuned to any disruptions or disturbances, even seemed to revel in the newfound addition to their surroundings. Playfully darting and pouncing behind the mirror, their antics brought a sense of relief, and I began to believe that perhaps my initial trepidation was unfounded. However, as the following weeks unfolded, a series of spine-chilling events began to unfold, leaving me in a state of perpetual unease. It started subtly, with shadows flickering and dancing in the mirror's reflective surface. At first, I dismissed them as mere tricks of the light, but their persistence gradually eroded my skepticism. The mirror seemed to hold an inexplicable allure, drawing me into its depths with an unsettling pull. Alarmed by the increasingly sinister occurrence, I made a bold decision. I resolved to remove the mirror from its place in the bathroom and relocate it to the hallway, hoping that the change in environment would alleviate the strange phenomena. I eagerly moved it to its new spot. However, my relief was short-lived, as even my father, who initially dismissed my concerns, began to witness inexplicable figures within its reflection. His growing apprehension mirrored my own, deepening the sense of foreboding that now permeated our home. Determined to find a solution, I resorted to draping the mirror in a cloth, hoping to conceal its mysterious influence. To my dismay, the cloth placement proved to be futile, as it would invariably fall off by morning, leaving the mirror exposed once again. What perplexed me further was the peculiar journey the cloth embarked on during the night. On several occasions I discovered it in unexpected places, far away from the hallway. It appeared as though an unseen force was not only undressing the mirror, but also toying with our perceptions of reality at the same time. With each passing day, the mirror's presence grew increasingly unsettling. Both my father and I bore witness to shadowy figures lurking within its depths, their forms enigmatic and unsettling. Adding to our distress were the inexplicable instances of cabinet doors being left ajar on nights when I found myself alone in the house. Perplexingly, my feline companions, despite their acrobatic prowess, were incapable of reaching such heights. These inexplicable events only served to deepen the pervasive otherworldly presence that consumed our lives. However, the true pinnacle of terror arrived a week ago, forever ingraining itself in my memory as the most chilling encounter I had experienced thus far. It was an ordinary evening as I stood in my kitchen, preparing for a meal, when an eerie sound disrupted the usual tranquility. Knocking, distinct and deliberate, reverberated from the window just behind me. Startled, I turned over to realize the grim reality. I lived on the 3rd floor, and the only window with balcony access was situated in the living room. Dread coiled within me as I comprehended the impossibility of this occurrence, leaving me trembling with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Nightmares plagued my sleep, tormenting me with their vivid and unsettling imagery. Most harrowingly, these nocturnal horrors often featured the mirror at the epicenter of their malevolence. In these dreams, I found myself trapped within the mirror's ethereal depths, my reflection distorting and contorting into grotesque forms. The terror was all-encompassing, suffocating my very soul, leaving me desperate for an escape that seemed perpetually out of reach. Reluctant to keep such an ominous artifact in my immediate vicinity, I made the decision to banish the mirror to the confines of the hallway closet. Perhaps I naively hoped this act would quell its macabre influence and restore a semblance of normalcy to our lives. Alas, the assiduous forces at play seemed unaffected by my feeble attempts at containment. Even now, as I recount these events, the mirror's chilling presence continues to permeate the very essence of our home. Shadows dance and writhe, distorting the boundaries between reality and the ethereal realm. The unseen entity responsible for these haunting manifestations revel in its control, leaving us feeling like mere pawns in a sinister game of its design. In the face of such unrelenting terror, I found solace in the knowledge that I am not alone in this struggle. Together with my father, we faced the inexplicable, striving to uncover the truth behind the mirror's malevolence. Our determination burns bright, fueled by the relentless pursuit of answers, and hope that one day we will break free from the clutches of this haunting presence. Until then, we tread carefully, ever vigilant, knowing that the next chapter in our harrowing tale may just be a reflection away. Story number 11. Witch Encounter in Mexico. As a child, I was fascinated by the rich tapestry of Mexican folklore, filled with captivating tales of mythical creatures and witches. My maternal grandmother, a firm believer in these legends, would regale me with stories of her encounters with witches, particularly the Lechuza, an archetypical owl witch said to have made a pact with Satan or other evil spirits. According to the folklore, these witches, often depicted as elderly women, possessed the ability to transform into owls, although it was believed that they had to remove their legs and hide them while assuming their owl form. Growing up, I never had any personal encounters with witches, and I considered myself lucky. However, everything changed 2 years ago when I found myself in my dad's hometown, a small Mexican village with a population of roughly 9,000 residents. Our house was situated at the very end of a long dirt road, far away from the bustling town center. On one side of the road stood quaint traditional houses, while on the other side, a deep gully or trench stretched out, once serving as a river with dense woods beyond its reach. It was during the town's festive season, a time when adults sought solace in the plaza, indulging in merrymaking and imbibing spirits, while children reveled in the fair. Feeling tired and uninterested in the revelry, I decided to leave early. Luckily, I managed to hitch a ride with a local resident who lived at the beginning of the dirt road. This meant that I only had to walk about a mile to reach my house, an easy distance to cover. Around 10 minutes into my solitary walk, I heard a peculiar sound resembling birds settling down for the night. Assuming it was merely the avian inhabitants of nearby trees finding their perches, I glanced up to investigate. To my surprise, I spotted a pair of bright orange eyes 10 feet above the ground, fixed upon me. The sight sent shivers down my spine, but I chose to ignore it, pushing forward on my journey. However, my resolute footsteps were soon interrupted by rustling noises behind me. I turned around to find the eyes had vanished, leading me to believe that the bird had taken flight. But then a voice emerged from the depths of the gully, beckoning me with a chilling call. "Hey, sir, come here." Initially, I tried to brush off the insistent beckoning, assuming it was just a figment of my imagination. However, the voice persisted, pestering me ceaselessly until I could no longer ignore it. Annoyed and slightly intrigued, I reluctantly made my way toward the edge of the gully, intending to confront the source of these disturbances and demand some respite. As I approached, my eyes fixated on the woman who had called out to me, and I couldn't help but notice something utterly bizarre. Clad in Tarahumara attire, a native costume known for its long skirt, her lower limbs were strangely absent, as if her ankles had been severed. Moreover, she appeared to float above the ground, defying the laws of gravity. The woman's eyes met mine, filled with an inexplicable hatred that chilled me to the bone. In that moment, realization washed over me. She knew that her secret had been discovered. The panic surged through her eyes. Reacting instinctively, I turned on my heels and sprinted toward my house. The air filled with the deafening sound of flapping wings, and I dared not look back. Glancing over my shoulder, engulfed me as I beheld an enormous owl, its piercing orange eyes fixed upon me, soaring through the night sky, relentlessly pursuing me. With every ounce of strength within me, I reached the sanctuary of my house and slammed the door shut, hoping to find solace within those walls. But the respite was short-lived. Barely a few seconds had passed before an eerie banging commenced on the door, accompanied by inhuman screeches that sent shudders down my spine. Panic consumed me as I racked my brain, searching for a means to fend off this unholy menace. And then I recalled my grandmother's words. Prayer was the most potent defense against witches. Desperation gripping my soul, I began to recite fervent prayers, clinging to the hope that they would shield me from the approaching evil. Miraculously, the wailing ceased, leaving behind an eerie silence. Gathering my waning courage, I resolved to fortify my sanctuary further. I hastily retrieved salt from the kitchen and sprinkled it across the thresholds of every entrance, hoping to form a protective barrier. My actions were driven by an instinctual fear, a knowledge that this otherworldly presence would not be deterred easily. As I meticulously laid down the last grains of salt, a sudden crash jolted me from my task. I glanced up, heart pounding, and saw that the kitchen window above the sink had shattered into 1,000 fragments. Before my disbelieving eyes, the familiar owl, its once graceful form twisted my malevolence, attempted to force its way through the broken window. To my horror, the creature emitted guttural, vaguely human utterances, as if it sought to communicate in some twisted tongue. Frantically, I grabbed handfuls of salt, the very substance that I had intended to employ for protection, and hurled it at the owl. An immediate reaction followed. The creature recoiled, retreating from the window and finding a perch on the fence just outside. Its eyes bore into mine with an intensity that could pierce the soul, and I sensed the seething hatred emanating from the creature's gaze. Exhausted and terrified, I retreated to the safety of the couch, perching on its edge, determined not to let my guard down until the break of dawn. Morning arrived, and as I gingerly stepped into the kitchen, I held into the glimmer of hope that the night's horrors had been nothing more than a terrifying dream. Alas, my hopes were dashed when I discovered the shattered glass strewn across the floor, a stark reminder of the owl's violent intrusion. Gathering my resolve, I ventured outside, only to be confronted by deep scratches marred across the front door, a testament to the owl's relentless assault. My gaze shifted to the fence, where the menacing creature had perched just hours before. To my horror, the ground and the wooden beams bore the marks of crimson blood, spilled amidst the owl's rage. Unnerved and shaken, I tried to gather myself, to clear away the remnants of the previous night's events. As I swept the glass from the porch, a flicker of movement caught my attention. Across the gully, nestled among the trees, stood an older woman, her weathered face marred by countless cuts and abrasions, as if tiny shards of glass had assaulted her delicate skin. I knew in my heart that this was the same woman, the witch, who had haunted me throughout that fateful night. Without breaking eye contact, I stood my ground, refusing to yield an inch to her malevolence. Gradually, she retreated, her figure disappearing into the depths of the woods, and mercifully, I never saw her again. Story number 12. Through Those Innocent Eyes. Back when I was still a young, eager college student, I found myself entrusted with the important responsibility of babysitting my cousin's youngest son. This adorable little boy, at the tender age of 3 or 4, was a bundle of energy and curiosity that seemed to know no bounds. It was on a particular evening, shortly after they had returned home from a fun-filled trip to the mall, that I found myself in the unique position of being alone with him. As his 2 older brothers were still at school, his mother was busy preparing a delicious dinner in the kitchen, while my cousin tinkered away in the garage, attempting to fix their car. In the midst of all of this hustle and bustle, the living room became our temporary haven, where the 2 of us embarked on an adventure of our own. I gently helped him remove his tiny shoes, cherishing these precious moments that I knew would be etched in my memory forever. Suddenly, amidst the quiet ambiance of the room, I heard a delightful sound that lifted my spirits instantly. It was the unmistakable sound of giggles emanating from the young boy. Confused yet intrigued, I looked up at him, our eyes meeting, as I inquired about the source of his amusement. With a mischievous smile gracing his cherubic face, he pointed his tiny finger toward a stone grotto situated within the house. Intrigued by his reaction, I turned my gaze toward the grotto, half expecting to see a family member or perhaps a playful pet lurking in its depths. However, to my surprise, there was no one there. Instead, the stone grotto housed a collection of religious figurines and cherished photographs of our dearly departed loved ones. It was an area filled with memories, a place of solace and reverence. Yet, in this moment, it seemed to be the epicenter of the young boy's infectious laughter. Unable to resist the urge to uncover the mystery behind his amusement, I carefully scooped him up into my arms and made my way upstairs to their cozy bedroom. With each step I took, a sense of trepidation intertwined with excitement as it coursed through my veins. As we entered the room bathed in a soft white glow, I couldn't help but notice the hairs on my arms stand on end, while goosebumps cascaded across my skin. Seeking to comprehend the source of his contagious joy, I gently placed him on the plush carpeted floor and knelt down beside him. With a mix of curiosity and a tinge of apprehension, I posed the question that weighed heavily on my mind. "Are there people here with us in the room, my dear?" His response was a simple yet profound one. He met my gaze, his eyes brimming with innocence, and offered me a radiant smile before directing his gaze toward the far corner of the room. In that moment, an inexplicable sense of awe washed over me, as if the veil between the earthly realm and something more ethereal had momentarily lifted. My heart skipped a beat and my mind raced to make sense of this extraordinary encounter. Were these unseen spirits, guardian angels, or simply the remnants of fond memories swirling around us? I couldn't say for certain, but one thing was undeniable. I was in the presence of something otherworldly. As time seemed to stand still, I found myself drawn to that corner of the room, my eyes fixated on an invisible force that seemed to transcend the boundaries of our tangible existence. It was as if the laughter of generations past echoed through the air, carrying with it a sense of joy and warmth that surpassed comprehension. In that singular moment, I felt connected to a lineage of love and a shared history that stretched far beyond the confines of my own finite existence. The young boy's laughter persisted, intermingling with the silent whispers of the unseen, creating a symphony of sound that filled the room with an indescribable energy. I couldn't help but smile, overcome with a profound sense of gratitude for being granted this glimpse into the mystical realm that lay beyond our reach. Okay, it's going to rain harder now. Sorry, listeners, but I'm going to continue reading throughout this torrential downpour. Eventually, the laughter subsided, and the room returned to its tranquil state. The young boy, seemingly content with the otherworldly encounter, shifted his attention to a stack of books, oblivious to the profound impact that he had just bestowed upon my soul. As I watched him delve into the realm of colorful illustrations and imaginative tales, I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of wonder and reverence for the invisible forces that had blessed us with their presence. That night, as I bid farewell to my cousin's home, I carried with me not only the memories of an enchanting evening, but also a newfound appreciation for the mysteries that lie beyond our comprehension. The young boy had unknowingly bestowed upon me a gift, a glimpse into a world unseen, a world that exists in the whispers of laughter, the corners of rooms, and the everlasting bonds of love that transcend the boundaries of time and space, and for that, I will forever be grateful. Story number 13. In light of discovering a sleep paralysis, tag exists. Check 1. The harrowing experience began with the sound of my mother's voice, piercing through my consciousness, rudely interrupting my peaceful slumber. Groggily, I turned my gaze towards the wall, only to be met with the dimness of the early morning. Convinced that it must have been a figment of my dream, I decided to remain still, waiting for the voice to dissipate into the realm of my imagination. Yet to my astonishment, the voice resurfaced, cutting through the silence once again. "Hey, come here now," my mother's voice demanded urgently. Curiosity mingled with a tinge of apprehension, causing me to hesitate. Something deep within me urged me to disregard her call this time. Despite my internal conflict, I remained motionless, rooted to my spot. The voice continued its ascent, climbing up the stairs in disjointed intervals, as though propelled by an otherworldly force. It spoke rapidly, uttering an inexplicable abundance of words within the confined time frame. It was at this moment that I realized I couldn't move a muscle, no matter how hard I concentrated, even the slightest twitch, as others had suggested in similar situations. Soon enough, the voice reached the threshold of my bedroom. Its tone remained unmistakably my mother's, yet it was infused with an uncharacteristic anger and bitterness that sent shivers down my spine. The transformation was so drastic that it rendered her voice unrecognizable, defying any prior familiarity that I had with it. Dread enveloped me as the realization sank in. Then, as I lay there, vulnerable and paralyzed, the voice fell silent, leaving me in an eerie void that seemed to stretch on for both mere seconds and eternal minutes simultaneously. A sinking feeling consumed me when I perceived the unmistakable dip in my bed. It was as if the weight of an unseen presence pressed down upon the mattress, and a surge of terror jolted me from my immobilized state. Frantically, I surveyed the room, scouring every nook and cranny for any sign of an intruder or a hidden being, perhaps, lurking beneath my bed. Yet there was nothing to be found. No open door, no unlocked window, and certainly no cats or malevolent figures concealed within the shadows. It was just me, trapped in the clutches of fear at the unholy hour of 2 a.m. my mind grappling with the possibility of this all being a vivid nightmare. Strangely enough, while the owner of the voice remained elusive in my dream, a vivid image that has etched itself into the recesses of my mind. It feels as if I've encountered this terrifying entity before, and now I shall attempt to describe it to the best of my abilities. Though I must acknowledge the possibility that my own imagination has conjured the most grotesque and horrifying features to attribute to this being. In my mind's eye, it stands tall, towering above me with an imposing presence. Its throat is marred by deep bruised discolorations, and I can even make out its windpipe, an eerie purple lump protruding unnaturally against the strained skin. Every muscle in its face appears tense and rigid, reminiscent of those haunting photographs of patients afflicted with tetanus. Yet, there is an undeniable human quality to its countenance, further accentuating the disturbing nature of its appearance. Curiously, it reminded me somewhat of the chilling bath scene from the iconic film The Shining, leading me to suspect that my childhood fears and haunts have played a role in shaping this visage. Nevertheless, despite the terrors that have plagued my mind, there is a sense of relief in knowing that it's merely a product of my overactive imagination, allowing me to conclude this unsettling narrative with a hint of laughter at my own dreadful creativity. Story number 14, Ghost on the Beach. In the summer of 2021, during a memorable trip to Myrtle Beach, I found myself immersed in a series of events that would forever leave an indelible mark on my memory. Accompanied by my beloved boyfriend, we had eagerly booked a stunning suite right on the beach, envisioning a romantic retreat to celebrate our cherished 4-year anniversary. It was a picturesque evening as we strolled along the sandy shores, the rhythmic sound of crashing waves serenading our steps. The clock had struck 11 p.m., and realizing my significant other was experiencing some discomfort in his stomach, we decided it was time to retire to our cozy haven. As he opted to lay down, seeking solace in the confines of our room, I felt an inexplicable pull to the balcony, beckoning me to witness the majestic ocean beneath the canopy of the star-studded night sky. Our hotel room, nestled between the lofty heights of the 5th and 8th floors, offered an exquisite vantage point. My eyes beheld a breathtaking panorama, with the beach stretching out before me, a magnificent spectacle illuminated by miles in both directions. On this warm summer's night, a youthful throng of teenagers had congregated directly below, reveling in spirited festivities and unleashing a symphony of vibrant fireworks into the heavens. Mesmerized by the vibrant bursts of color that danced across the firmament, I marveled at the sheer exuberance displayed by the energetic adolescents. However, in the midst of their jubilant revelry, my attention was inexplicably drawn to a figure lurking in the shadows behind them. Like an instinctive reflex, my gaze fixated upon this man, who I perceived with utmost clarity despite the distance that separated us. He stood there, a black middle-aged individual adorned in a plain white t-shirt and dark shorts, his countenance marked by palpable distress. Without pausing to contemplate the implications of my actions, the man executed an abrupt about-face and commenced a rapid sprint along the coastline, away from the very spot where the fireworks had been detonated with resounding enthusiasm. As he distanced himself from the gathering crowd, an astonishing sight unfolded before my eyes. The man's physical form began to fade, gradually melding with the ethereal essence of the surrounding beach. The phenomenon was so surreal that I could discern the sand terrain through his translucent figure, until finally the faintest glimmer encased his outline, and he vanished into thin air, leaving me spellbound. My entire being froze, awestruck by the inexplicable occurrence that had unfolded before me.
Gathering my wits, I summoned every ounce of composure, cautiously making my way back to the room where my boyfriend lay, determined not to succumb to the overpowering sense of unease that threatened to consume me. Nevertheless, despite my best efforts, an undeniable undercurrent of fear permeated my every thought as I grappled with the incomprehensible sight I had just bore witness to. Yes, I must confess, inwardly, I was still utterly freaked out. As the night wore on, our tranquil haven turned into an eerie theater of unexplained phenomena. Bizarre noises echoed through the corridors, unsettling our senses and sending shivers down our spines. It commenced with a jarring crash, the unmistakable sound of the toilet seat in our private bathroom being violently slammed shut, reverberating through the silence. Subsequently, the contents of our kitchen cabinets rattled incessantly, as if animated by some unseen force. Both my boyfriend and I, imprisoned in this disconcerting symphony of sound, found our repose disrupted. The sleep was so desperately sought, eluding us with frustrating persistence. Time stretched as we lay awake, our minds racing to make sense of the inexplicable occurrences that had plagued our sanctuary. Whispers of supernatural danced on the periphery of our thoughts, fueled by the residual echoes of that enigmatic figure and the disconcerting disturbances that persisted throughout the night. In the face of such unsettling circumstances, it was nigh impossible to find solace or respite. With the first rays of dawn, a tangible relief permeated the room, as if the ghosts of the night had retreated, relinquishing their grip on our fragile reality. Exhausted, mentally drained, my boyfriend and I emerged from our restless slumber, bleary-eyed and yearning. As we reluctantly packed our belongings, the memories of that fateful evening still haunted our minds. Myrtle Beach, once a picturesque retreat that had promised idyllic moments of celebration, now bore the indelible mark of the enigmatic encounter, a night when the extraordinary boundary between the seen and unseen had blurred, and the inexplicable forces of the unknown had infiltrated our lives.